How does it feel to see your written work come to life on stage?
For me, it's every time I watch it, it's a magical experience. When I was a kid, my parents had regular seats in the Theatre Royal in Brighton, and I used to sit there from about the age of 9, dreaming that one day that curtain would rise and there'd be something there I'd written. And the dream came true last year when my novella, The Perfect Murder, was adapted. And that did a 26-week tour. And it's come true again this year with Dead Simple. And every time I watch a performance, and I've seen it pretty well every venue that's performed, I still feel a real sort of buzz of excitement. And I love watching the audience as well, because audiences react differently. Pretty well every performance, and obviously the interaction between cast and audience is very important. You know, the cast respond in a way to how the audience respond. We had quite a funny incident in Worthing when there's a scene early on when Jamie Lomas is trapped in darkness in the coffin, and he shouts out, "Where am I?" And somebody in the audience said, "You're in Worthing, mate." Sorry, you're in Woking, mate.
What's the most challenging part for you adapting your novel into a screenplay?
I guess the most challenging part of all was the sheer scale of the book, compressing that onto the stage. And Sean McKenna, who did the adaptation, is a miracle worker. He managed to get Lord of the Rings on the stage.
Wow.
So Dead Simple was not dead simple, but you know, the book starts off with a massive car crash at the end of chapter 1, and the whole climax of the novel is a huge car chase again, and obviously there's not that much room on the stage here at the Connaught for a car chase. Yeah. But Sean did a very clever, the first car crash it's immensely shocking, and it's done through lights and sound and effects, and the whole ending of the play we changed, and part of the reason we changed it was that I wanted people who read the book to come away going, "Wow!"
Still surprised,
yeah, and they all think they know how it's going to end, and it's actually a better ending, I think, in the play than the book.
Oh, that's brilliant. I can imagine when you're writing a book, of course, you've got the complete freedom to almost go a bit wild, because you don't have to worry about the budgeting, and then when it comes to stage or something like this, it's got to be
Yeah, it's a massive. I mean, obviously with a book, I can have a whole cast of characters. I haven't got a producer down my neck saying, "Oh, we can't have more than 9."
Brilliant. So, with the final run of Dead Simple in Worthing, how do you feel the tour has been? And do you have any more plans for future stage adaptations?
Yeah, the tour's been fantastic. It's been a sellout in a lot of venues. I mean, it's fantastic to end on such a high, where I think it sold out every performance and an extra matinee too. But it's been doing brilliantly well around the country. The cast are great. They've all had a really good time. And yeah, next year we're bringing back The Perfect Murder. It's doing a shorter tour next spring. And then 2017 we're doing the third Roy Grace novel, which is Not Dead Enough. And Sean is again adapting that. And then 2018 we have plans to do a ghost story, and we haven't quite decided whether it's my new ghost story novel, The House on Cold Hill, or my first supernatural novel, Possession. And then we're planning to do another new Roy Grace after that. So we've got a plan for 2020 at the moment. I am loving the experience. I think the world of theatre, in a way, it takes you back to the roots of storytelling. You know, before books, the art of storytelling was an old tradition. People would stand up and people would react to the story. You don't see anybody react to your book. Somebody sitting on a train reading, they're just reading. Whereas it's wonderful to be able to sit in the theatre and actually see people laugh or scream or gasp.
Yeah. You've based some of your stories in Brighton before, is that right?
Yeah, I was born and grew up in Brighton, and I'm a great believer in writing what you know about it. And I guess I was very fortunate, as next year's mayor will well know, that Brighton has been since 1932 called the crime capital of the UK and the murder capital of Europe.
Oh wow.
It's got just a wonderful dark edge to it. But I think it's got that. A lot of places have a dark edge without having any redeeming feature. Brighton is a fantastic place, but it's always had that slight dark undertow of violence. We've got the railway line to thank for it, which when it was opened in about 1843, all the scuzzy villains in London thought, Brighton would be a much place to be a villain, and they brought prostitution, cockfighting, protection racketeering, razor gangs.
It would have been very unique.
Yeah, and they never left.
Yeah. Do your characters ever wander astray to Worthing, or is that an area that's not really mentioned much?
But you know something, I've had a few scenes. Glenn Branson, my detective, was trying to date a woman in Worthing in a previous book. And I've been out with the police in Worthing a few times, and it's kind of interesting. I hadn't realised Worthing's got quite a lively dark undertow also. I've been out in Worthing on a Friday night. It's every bit as busy as Brighton.
Just to wrap up then, what inspires you most, and how important is research before writing a new novel?
I think research is incredibly important. I really believe people, when I talk about writing, I think there's an inseparable trinity of character, research and plot. I think we read books to see what happens to characters we engage with. Research is more important than plot, because I think people who read are smart. If you don't believe the author knows what he or she is writing about, you're not going to care about the plot. Research is in many ways the most important aspect to me, particularly with policing. I think that people can see through things very quickly, and also you've got to remember there's 250,000 police and support staff in the UK. That's a big chunk of audience, and you don't want them laughing at you. And I think what inspires me, what I get my ideas from, is almost anything. It could be something a police officer says when I'm out and I'm talking about a past case, something I read in the newspaper, occasionally something that comes out of my dark mind. I mean, Dead Simple came out of when I got married for the first time in 1979, and my friends took me on a pub crawl around Sussex, and I was completely plastered, and they then stripped me naked and sat me on a pillar box in the centre of Brighton. They only had my red socks on, and then phoned the police and said there was a naked pervert in the room. And I spent the night in a cell. And from that point, I thought, people do quite brutal things on stag nights. I thought, what would be the worst thing that could happen on somebody's stag night? That's how Dead Simple came about.
Well, thank you so much for coming today. Really appreciate that.
Pleasure. It's great to be here.